Hello all, and today we're going to have a look at the new Balance SuperComp Trainer V3. New Balance with the release of the FuelCell SuperComp Elite V4, FuelCell Rebel V4s, and even a completely new shoe, the Fresh Foam X Balance, have definitely created a buzz in the running community this year. That being said, the New Balance shoe that I've been looking forward to all year has been the FuelCell SuperComp Trainer V3. But can this shoe live up to the hype? Well, I've done over 100 miles on these shoes now, so I'm ready to give my thoughts on how these shoes feel. But let's first start with a bit of background to the New Balance SC Trainer V3s. The SC Trainer V3 is designed to act as a max cushion plated training shoe for those longer runs or tempo runs, blending cushioning, comfort and responsiveness. It's meant to be a training partner to the FuelCell Elite V4s, where you'd save those for race day, then do the majority of your training miles in these. The reason these caught my eye is I've been doing a lot of my longer runs in two pairs of Adidas Prime X's, which I've had for a couple of years now and really enjoyed. I've probably ran over about 1,600 kilometers between both of them, but I wasn't really convinced with the weight and price increase on the Adidas Prime X2s, and I've been looking for a new plated training shoe ever since to take over the reins. Although I did pick up the SC Trainer V3s and I've been very excited about them since I found out about the new complete redesign, I have to say it wasn't really an easy choice, as these came in at an eye-watering £230 here in the UK, which makes these shoes pretty much priced higher than most of its competitors, excluding the Adidas Prime X2s. Weight-wise, thankfully, these are a lot more reasonable, coming in at 298 grams in my size 10.5 UK, which, although it isn't super lightweight, I wouldn't say the New Balance SC Trainer V3s feel bulky or weighty while on my foot. I think they're one of those shoes that feel a lot lighter than they actually are once you get running in them. Let's take a look at the construction of this shoe now, as always starting in the upper and working our way down. The upper is made from quite a breathable coarse mesh, which New Balance call their Phantom Fit upper. Similar to the one used on the Rebel V4, but here it feels a little bit more substantial. Thicker than the material used on the Rebel and therefore probably a little bit more durable too. Airflow definitely hasn't been a problem though. I've been running in this shoe in some quite warm temperatures and I can definitely feel a breeze through the upper. There's also quite a bit of padding around the heel, and along with the gusseted tongue, it makes for quite a comfortable upper with a very good lockdown. The only downside I found with the upper is that this toe box seems very tapered and narrow. This has caused me a few blisters on those longer runs, so that might be something to watch out for if you have wider feet like me. Also, the insole that New Balance have used here feels really thin and rough. I don't normally have an issue with insoles, although this one seems to have caused me a few blisters. I think I might look at swapping these out for a more comfortable insole, but then again, it's a £230 shoe. It really shouldn't have a cheap flimsy insole. The only reason I think maybe New Balance have used this insole is to save a bit of weight. It's just strange. I haven't had this issue in New Balance Rebel V4 for example, and that has a similar sort of insole. So maybe it's just a one-off for me here. And onto the midsole now. The SC Trainer V3 gets an updated FuelCell PIBA EVA blend with 40mm stack height at the heel and a 34mm stack height in the forefoot. Sandwiched in between the midsole you get a full-length Energy Arc plate, which is just New Balance's name for their carbon fibre plate basically. It's there to give you a bit more of a propulsive feel and to help drive you forward. It's a shame you don't get a full PIBA midsole like you would find in the New Balance SuperComp Elites, but the PIBA EVA blend should be a bit more durable and the midsole in the SC Trainer V3 should last much longer. I think it's the same midsole material they've used in the Rebel V4s, there's just a lot more of it here. So it's already a proven midsole that many people enjoy. How does it feel to run in though? When I first stepped into the shoe and went for my first run, I thought the ride was actually super firm for a shoe with this much stack height, but after a few runs the midsole has broken in a bit and has become a bit softer. It's still not super soft, nowhere near as soft as the Mizuno Neo Vistas for example, which I've also been running in recently, but it's not overly harsh either. So if you're a fan of max stack shoes which aren't overly soft, this might be a good option for you. What the midsole lacks in overall cushioning though, it makes up for in responsiveness. The midsole feels super responsive and efficient in my opinion. You can definitely pick up the pace in these and do some speed work in these shoes, as well as some easier runs. So I guess they're quite versatile in that sense. Okay, lastly, let's take a look at the outsole. Nothing fancy here. In fact, it's pretty similar to the New Balance Rebel V4, which I tested earlier in the year. The grip just seems fine. It might come a little unstuck over slippery surfaces in the wet, manhole covers, things like that. So just watch out for those. And it's maybe not a shoe to take off-road onto the trails. But overall, I haven't had too many issues with grip. The rubber seems like it's quite hard wearing, so you should get plenty of miles out of these outsoles before they start wearing through. Okay, so now that we've been through the specs and the separate components of this shoe, I want to talk about what I enjoyed about the SC Trainer V3, and also maybe a few things I think New Balance could improve. So my first like is the energy return. The FuelCell blended EVA PIBA midsole feels really efficient in this department. I felt as soon as I pick up the pace, I can definitely feel the midsoles giving me a lot back in energy return. Although this shoe is on the bulkier side, the New Balance Trainer V3 genuinely feels like a shoe I wouldn't mind running a marathon or half marathon in, if I wasn't overly fussed about setting a PB maybe. Of course, it's not as fast as proper race shoes like the Alphafly or SuperComp Elites, but in my opinion, for the average runner like me, it's probably not that far off. It's one of those really well executed hybrid shoes which can combine max stack cushioning to protect the legs and provide pace when you want it. My second like is the stability. With most max cushion shoes, you'll find that you'll need to have really good form to get the most out of them and avoid injury. I've tried many max cushion shoes in the past, and although I've really loved many of them, like the Adidas Prime X for example, I've lost count of how many times I've nearly turned an ankle in them. With the New Balance SC Trainer V3 however, because of the slightly firmer ride and the wide landing platform here, stability hasn't really been a concern for me. I haven't really had to watch where I've been stepping, which is definitely a bonus if you're clumsy like me. Also, it helps on longer runs where towards the back end of that long run, my form might be off as I'm getting more and more tired. So the stability here just helps keep my form in check too. Okay, so my third like is the versatility of this shoe. I've already spoken about how good the SC Trainer V3 feels to run fast in, but it has two sides to its personality, and I think it's also a really good long distance cruiser. It's a really good choice if you have a longer progression run to do, or a longer run with some faster intervals, as you can cruise in them quite comfortably for miles, but then turn up the pace as well. So in reality, you can pretty much use these shoes for anything. Okay, well, maybe I wouldn't really do a fast track workout or something like that in them, for example, but for most people this might be the only shoe they need, and you can do easy runs in them, speed work, and even do some races in them if you want. My fourth like is the looks. So looks might not be important to everyone, and normally they're not important to me when I'm choosing running shoe, but I just love New Balance's design language with a lot of their shoes this year. The SuperComp Trainer V3 is very angular and sort of got that stealth fighter look, and it comes in some really nice colorways. So again, not the most important feature of this shoe, but for me it's a nice little bonus that it looks good. Okay, so I'm now going to move on to what I didn't like so much about the New Balance SC Trainer V3s. So my first dislike is the cushioning. Although there's a lot of this soft feeling FuelCell foam underfoot, it somehow doesn't translate into a cushioned ride. This may not be a downside for everyone, some people like firmer shoes, but in this type of shoe I personally prefer to have a bit more cushioning for those longer runs. I mean, it's not firm or jarring, and it has broken in a bit since I first ran in them, but if I feel like running in a more cushioned super trainer, I find myself reaching for the Mizuno Neo Vistas or the Adidas Prime X's still. It's strange, as the first version of the SuperComp Trainer was one of the softest shoes on the market at the time, and each version of this shoe seems to have changed dramatically. My second dislike is the upper comfort. I think the New Balance SC Trainer V3 has the potential to be a very comfortable shoe. New Balance have used some really nice materials here in the upper, as a nice padded heel, and the tongue and lockdown are perfect for me. However, I do have an issue with the comfort here. The shape of the toe box is slightly too narrow for me, and it's very tapered, not really a natural foot shape, so it ends up crushing my toes together a little bit. I have slightly wider feet than average, so this might not be an issue for everyone, mind. The second issue I have is with the insole. I don't know what it is, but it just feels really thin, flimsy, and borderline abrasive. I've got blisters from this in places where I've never had blisters on my feet before. Again, not sure if it's just me, but that was my experience from it anyway. You can always purchase more comfortable insoles and swap the standard ones out, but again, should you really have to do that for £230? My last criticism of the New Balance SC Trainer V3 is the price. £230 is truly a ridiculous price in my opinion. I know some parts of the world it works out a lot cheaper than that, and it's actually quite decent value. But here in the UK and Europe for some reason, the price tag is a lot more hefty. I mean, it's a decent shoe and you can tell it's really nicely made with quality materials, apart from the insole that is. But I think some running shoe brands are testing their limits on how high they can price their running shoes and get away with it. And New Balance isn't the only brand doing this. Nike, Adidas are at it as well. Luckily, after completing a New Balance Strava challenge earlier in the year, I had a 20% off voucher to use. So it did work out a lot cheaper for me, but I don't think I could have stomached up the full RRP for this shoe. But again, that's just me. Others might think this price is justified. My overall thoughts are that I think New Balance have created quite a versatile and capable shoe here. It's fairly comfortable as long as your feet aren't too wide, and the SuperComp Trainer V3 will look after you on all the runs you do, whether that be your Sunday long runs or racing a 10K. I'd say it might be the perfect shoe for somebody who doesn't want to build up a large shoe rotation, or somebody who just wants a competent and fast long run shoe to add to their rotation. Personally though, for the price, I'd maybe look at some other options like the Mizuno Neo Vista, Asics Superblast 2, and maybe even the Sakumi Speed 4. I think those shoes all do a similar sort of job and represent better value overall. I'm by no means trying to say that the SC Trainer V3 is a bad shoe, but here in the UK at least, in my opinion, it's just too much money. Maybe later down the line, if there's some offers on, this would be a better proposition. Anyway, those were my thoughts on the SC Trainer V3 after 100 miles of running in them, and I hope I've covered everything, but if I've missed anything or you have any questions, please ask away. For now, I hope you've enjoyed the review. Please give the video a like or give my channel a sub if you want to. It'll help me out a lot, and I'll see you all next time.